Hey everyone, and welcome back if you've been watching these videos. If not, welcome. Um, as you can see, we're in the third person template here. What we're going to be doing today is we're just going to be implementing a slide as well as crouch. Just helpful when have something that you want to get underneath, you want to slide under it or something like that. As you can see, the collision capsule that's visible. It might be hard to see in the video, but there's a collision capsule around my character that's kind of preventing me from moving forward. And so if we want to implement a slide or a crouch to get under these objects, then we need to do that. So how are we going to do that? First thing we need to do is over here in our content browser, we're just going to go to Input Actions, and under Actions, we're going to right click, go to Input, and then Input Action. And I'm going to type in IA slide, and then I'm going to hit enter. And under triggers, I'm just going to click the plus, and then this drop down, I'm going to click pressed. And that way, when the key is pressed, then it will execute this action. So we can go ahead and hit save and close this. And then the next thing we need to do is just go up one folder, double click on that IMC default, and in here, under mappings, we're going to click plus, and in the drop down, just choose the one that we just created, IA slide. And then we can map it to any key on our keyboard by just selecting this icon of a keyboard. It highlights. I'm going to select my C key, that's the one I want to use, and then I can just hit save. Everything else in here you can just leave as default. We can close this. And now we're going to open up our blueprint. Before I do open up the blueprint, though, I do want to show you that I have a couple animations in here that I've imported. So I have my running slide. Actually, let me delete this because I'm going to show you how to create that from scratch. So we have our running slide here, and under crouch, I have my crouch idle and my crouch walk forward. So those three animations are all from the Lyra project by Epic, and if you want to get that project and then migrate those animations in, literally just migrate them in, and once they're in, you can double click on those files, and it's going to ask you if you want to, what skeleton you want to use, and you select one, and they're good to go. So if I open up my slide here and right click, I can come up here to create and hit create anim montage, and then just hit the enter key. It's going to use the name of the existing animation and then add montage to it. If I double click on that montage, you'll notice that we have our animation. It's just kind of like a couple steps and then a slide, and then the character comes back up to like a full height again. So if I select this track right here, under the default slot, over here to the right in the details panel, you can see that the end time is 1.5333 seconds long. I want to shrink this down or clip it a little bit to 1.3. And if I do that, and you look at the end of my animation here, I just want to show that the character's starting to get up, but hasn't yet got to a full height. The reason I'm clipping this a little bit is because when this animation, when this montage blends into our idle, our logic, or the logic that's kind of built into Unreal for the uncrouch, is going to detect that there's an overhang above us, and I want the head of my character not to go through the overhang before it detects that. And so if I let this play out all the way, then the head actually kind of goes through the collision before it detects that. So that's why I'm clipping that a little bit, and you can hit save here, and then we can close that down. Now we can go in and we can open up our blueprint. So if I just select under third person blueprints, my BP underscore third person character blueprint, double click it, open it up. I'm going to right click here, type in IA slide, and I'm going to use this one here. I'm sorry. If I do IA slide, I want that one, top one. And I need a variable that is sliding, and the reason I want this is because I want to make sure that you can't enter a sliding state if you are already sliding. So if I set this up like this and check to see if you're currently sliding, if you are, we're not going to do anything, but if you're not sliding, we're going to go ahead and set it up and keep moving. So now we're going to set is sliding to be true, because now we are going to be sliding. And then the next thing is going to probably surprise you. We're going to crouch. And I know we're not officially crouching, we're just going into slide, but this crouch function actually allows us to shrink the capsule, the collision capsule that's around our character. And let's go ahead and take a look at that capsule. If you look at the character, you see this capsule around the character. One thing that you have to do is select your BP third person character here, and then come over here to the details panel, type in crouch, and you have to actually enable can crouch. So can crouch is right here. You'll notice that when crouch is done, it actually crouches the half height of this capsule to 40 centimeters. Now the total height of this is 180 centimeters right now. That means the half height is currently 90. So the crouched half height being 40 would shrink this capsule down to less than half of its current height. So that's about where you're going to get. So now if we go back into our event graph, we can continue on here. We want to play our montage. So let's play anim montage. And the montage we're going to play is just the one that we created. It's the only one that's in there right now. And then we're going to do a little delay. And the reason we want to do this delay is because we want to give our character time to travel underneath the overhang if it's just a small overhang and they want to slide from one side to the other. So I'm going to put 0.75 in here as the delay, and then I'm going to uncrouch. And once I uncrouch, I'm then going to set is sliding to false. So there you have it. So that's it. It's not too complicated, pretty simple. All you're really doing is crouching, playing in a montage, and then waiting a little bit and uncrouching. So now let's go and create just our basic crouch function. So I'm going to do that with left control and keyboard event. So you see the keyboard event here. And I want to do this on a flip-flop node so that it just kind of toggles back and forth between, when you want to crouch and then you hit it again, you uncrouch. So we're just going to go crouch, crouch, and then I want uncrouch right here, uncrouch. And that's it. Basically our logic in our third-person blueprint is done. So now I can compile this, and now we just need to open up our anim graph in our animation blueprint. So let's jump into the animation blueprint here. This is under animations folder, under mannequins and characters. So ABP _ Manny, double click it, opens up, and you'll see we have our event graph here, but I want to go into the anim graph. And in anim graph, this locomotion state machine is going to have what we need, and it's going to be where we need to add our states. So let's right click, add a state, call this crouch idle, and then we're going to right click, add a state, call this crouch walk. And then we're going to start adding our transition conditions. So first we need to drag a line from idle to crouch idle, and then drag a line from crouch idle back to idle. Do the same thing for crouch idle to walk, and from crouch walk to crouch idle, and then do the same thing from walk run to crouch walk. and from crouch walk to walk run. So now these little, each of these arrows has a little conditional icon next to it that will let you know the condition for that needs to exist in order for the state machine to go from idle to crouch idle or from any of the others. So let's go ahead and double click on this, and we're going to get our is crouched. So is crouched. Now we don't want is crouching under essential movement data. So uncheck this box right here. This character class get is crouched is the one that's set when a character uses the crouch function that's built into Unreal. And then over here under references, we're just going to use this character as our target, and that is going to be what we want to use. So let's copy this, and we're going to go back to our locomotion, and we're going to paste it over here in the transition that's going the opposite direction. So we're going to come in here, paste, and we're just going to do a not Boolean. So it's just the opposite of what we just did, right? So same thing, but, or I should say the opposite thing, right? So now if I come back in here, I can actually, let's do this. Before I forget, I want to add in my animations for crouch idle and crouch walk. So if I open these up and come over here and type in crouch, I want to make sure that this top one is my idle. It is. So I drag that in here. And then I want to make sure that loop animation is over here so that it doesn't just play one time. It plays in loops. So we've got that set. And now if I go back into locomotion and open up crouch walk, I can drag in the crouch walk, and I can set that to loop as well. And then we can go back into our locomotion. Okay, so now we have this set up here. I'm going to copy that again just to make sure. And I'm going to come over here into, so the condition to go from idle to crouch idle is that you're crouching, or is crouched is true. Same thing from walk run to crouch walk. It's just you're already in movement mode. So let's double click in here, select that, come back in here and do the not Boolean. And that way we've got this set up just like that. Okay, so we have our conditions set up here for idle to crouch idle, and our conditions from crouch walk and walk run. Those. Now we just need our, why would we go from crouch idle to crouch walk? Well, it would be because you're moving. So let's get should move, and if you are moving, then we're going to go ahead and allow it. And then we'll copy this, go back into locomotion, do the same thing. Just add a not condition, not Boolean, and then there you have it. So now we've set up our conditions for all of these states, and we can compile this. And if we jump into the game and I hit my crouch key and uncrouch and crouch, and I can walk around, and one thing to notice is that the crouch looks a little stiff and it looks too fast. We could have added, the lighter project actually has transition animations for exiting crouch and crouch, but just to make this simple, I wanted to show how you could do it without that. If I come in here and look at my transitions, when I'm transitioning from idle to crouch idle, if I click on this over here on the right, you can see that the duration of the transition is 0.2 seconds, which is pretty fast. Gravity is helping you as you move down, but let's make this 0.3. That's 50% slower than what we were doing, so it should feel a lot different. And then as we're standing back up, we're fighting against gravity. Let's make it 0.4 so that that transition is a little bit longer. And then we'll compile. Now let's take a look at what that looks like. Oops, that's the slide. Okay, so here's the crouch and uncrouch. It looks a lot better. So that's good. We have that. And now let me show you what the slide looks like if I'm going under something. There's the slide. I can do it again. Notice it's probably hard to see in the video, but the collision capsule does shrink down when you go under that. Now let's see what happens when you slide and you come up under something. Notice how it stays crouched. So that's one of the nice features. It's kind of built into the uncrouch function in Unreal, is that if you slide and you go to stand up, or if you crouch and then you go to stand up and there's an overhang above you, the function actually looks to see if there's encroachment and to see if you can stand up, and if you can't, it keeps you in crouch. But it does this when you exit. It automatically causes you to stand back up. So I'm currently in crouch, but I'm forced into crouch because there's encroachment. If I move forward, I don't actually have to uncrouch. It just kind of is constantly calculating and waits to see if you exit crouch or exit an overhang, and then it will automatically uncrouch you. Now you notice if I'm under here, I'm in crouch because I wanted to be in crouch. I can obviously then walk out from under cover and I stay in crouch. But if I walk under here and now I'm going to uncrouch. So I just hit the uncrouch key. I'm still in crouch, but now I move out from under and it automatically uncrouches me. So that's it. Now, one thing I want to show you is, you notice the feet are doing something all kind of wonky when you slide. And the reason for that is because the control rig, the IK control rig, has some issues and needs to be kind of fixed. So there is a fix for this that I found. And if you go into your anim graph, you see your control rig here. You can double click on it. And by default, I've already actually done this node. I didn't know how to undo it, but this node right here is not a sequence node. It's a deprecated node. So all you need to do is right click on it and go to the last option, and it says to upgrade to a sequence node or something to that effect. So go ahead and do that. It will swap out the old node for the new node, the sequence node. And then we need to add in a pin here. And then what we're going to do is this is essentially doing this IK trace. It's going to then create offsets for those. It's going to then move the offsets and use IK to move that for the rig. Well, what I want to do is I want to set or initialize the location of the feet to begin with. And that way we don't have that wonkiness. So just hold the control key down once you add a pin and just click and drag each of these down one. And now we're going to come up off of A, that first pin, and we're going to actually, once we come up here to do this, we want to set transform. And we're going to use this one that's down here, set transform. And then off the value, we want to get transform. And that's this one down here. And it's going to be for a bone. And so you see that get transform bone. It changes the set transform to bone. So we can move these over here a little bit. And this is going under the bone right here. You want to search for foot L. And then over here under item, search for IK foot L. So now you've done your left foot. That's all you got to do. Now let's copy that. Over here we're going to paste it. And we want this to be foot R for the right foot. And same thing here. IK foot R. So, and that's essentially all that you have to do. I'm going to select this and say initialize foot location, and then I'm going to, we can make this a little bit nicer. I can come like this up here, and then I can compile it, and you'll see if I come in here and I move to the left, or sorry, let me come back here. We don't have that wonkiness anymore on the feet. And so that's it. Hopefully this was helpful and you enjoyed the process of learning a little bit more about slides or crouch. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.